If you're looking for a deck that can win against pretty much anything in the metagame right now, then you need to look no further than Nathan Stratford's 8th place list from Portland Regional. Arceus Duraludon Umbreon is an incredibly versatile and strong deck that has matchups against pretty much everything in standard format. We're going to focus obviously on the Arceus V-STAR, the ever popular consistency boosting V-STAR Pokemon that has 2 incredible pieces of text. For 3 energy, we have Trinity Nova for 200 damage, which not only can take knockouts on most basic Pokemon Vs, but can also search our deck for up to 3 basic energy and attach them to our V Pokemon in any way we like. We also have the Starbirth ability, which will allow us once per game to search our deck for any 2 cards and put them directly into our hand. Using this, we're able to power up pretty much any attacker that we want, and we're going to focus in on Duraludon VMAX and Umbreon VMAX. Duraludon VMAX is particularly strong into decks like Lugia V-STAR thanks to its incredible ability. Skyscraper means that any Pokemon with special energy attached cannot deal damage to this Pokemon. It also has the attack G-Max Pulverization for a fighting and 2 metal energy, which will do 220 damage, and it will also hit through any effects on your opponent's Pokemon. It's pretty strong, it can take knockouts on Vs like I mentioned, but combined with the fact that it's quite bulky and is difficult to knock out because of its ability, will be able to stick around for a very long time. This list also plays 1 copy of Karen's Conviction, which deals extra damage depending on the amount of prize cards your opponent has taken, and this can sometimes push our Duraludon over the top to take 1-hit knockouts on V-STAR Pokemon. The really exciting thing about this deck, in my opinion, though, is our Umbreon VMAX. This card is obviously quite an expensive one for collectors, but has lots of good qualities in the standard format as well. Firstly, its Dark Signal ability means that when we put it into play, we can use its ability to bring out a Pokemon from our opponent's bench and put it into the active. It also has Max Darkness for 160 damage, 1 dark energy, 2 colorless. We can effectively power this one up in 2 turns, thanks to DTE, but we can also use Arceus to hit 3 basic energies to get this attack going. It'll knock out Mew, it'll knock out Gardevoir. It's a very versatile attack right now, and with no negative effects, it's pretty solid. This deck list also plays some really interesting tech cards, namely Radiant Alakazam, which has the ability to move some damage counters around the board. We can sometimes use this with Radiant Hawlucha in order to make our maths just that little bit nicer for our Arceus V-STAR, or for our Duraludon VMAX, or for our Umbreon VMAX, try and take knockouts when we might not have been able to before. We also have Volo in this list, a very cool supporter card that allows us to discard a Pokemon on our bench. Sometimes we have to play things like Lumineon V or another Arceus just to stay in the game, and we don't necessarily want to give our opponent the opportunity to take those knockouts. That's where Volo can come in and save the day by removing that 2 prize Pokemon from our field, giving our opponent just that little bit more of a difficult route to 6 prize cards. Overall, the list on the screen is incredibly strong. It's also down in the description. I'm going to take it out onto the ladder now and see if we can't win a couple of games with it. I'll say this much, I've been very much enjoying this deck. It's the deck that I've been laddering with. It's very, very strong. It's game time. We've got an okay hand. We've got a very good hand. Nest Ball makes this an excellent hand. Let's grab ourselves Arceus V and attach an energy to that Arceus. I like that. That's very, very nice. I'm also considering playing down this Lumineon here because we're up against Mew V. We can see that in the active. I don't want my opponent to be able to play, if they're playing the Meloetta version, I don't want them to be able to use Meloetta to escape rope and knock out our Arceus. So we'll play down that Lumineon. If they do get the Meloetta going, then they can take the knockout on the Lumineon V. That's fine. But I don't want them to knock out the Arceus. Now, I was listening to a podcast the other day. I think it was Lake of Rage. I can't remember. But Kashvinder Singh was on there, and he was talking about Arceus decks needing 1 or 2 things. They need energy, they need Arceus, and then they're in the game. EA Sports, baby. You're in the game. EA Sports. Oh, so good. And we've got that. We've got energy, we've got Arceus. It is the Meloetta, so I was right to play that Lumineon down. But a Judge coming through here. So perfectly reasonable. Our opponent electing to Judge here. Now we are in a bit of an awkward spot, in the sense that we need to draw out of this Judge, and we've done that. We've got the Professor's Research, which is nice. We're going to find it a little bit difficult at some stage here, because our opponent will play down Path of the Peak. Obviously, Mew VMAX and Path of the Peak go hand in hand in the sense that they love to play it. They love to try and slow us down, and a Cramomatic Heads here could potentially see that path coming into play. They've got the heads, so I would imagine now we are in a little bit of trouble. We do have 3 copies of Lost City in this deck, so it's definitely not impossible for us to get out of that path lock, but we are now relying on our Professor's research, which honestly, thank goodness I have in my hand, because otherwise this path would be a real pain to get out of. Let's go now. I think we're going to bench down Duraludon V, a very, very strong card in the Mew VMAX matchup. It's obviously not the best attacker because they do play Path, but we can potentially lock them down and stop that Mew VMAX from taking a big knockout, which I like. We've found the Lost City, so now we can activate our Starbirth ability. We're going to be able to find ourselves a copy of Double Turbo Energy here, and we also want a switching card. So let's see, we've got both Switch and Escape Rope, which is great. We've got Double Turbo Energy, we'll get both of those. I'm going to use Switch because I don't want our opponent to bring the Meloetta up. I would much rather knock this Mew V out. I'm also going to use Nest Ball here to grab ourselves a basic Umbreon V and put that onto our bench. We have a Darkness Energy in our hand. We can potentially attack with Umbreon VMAX next turn. And like Duraludon, Umbreon is a very, very good attacker in this matchup. So we'll just double check. We've got Duraludon. We've got Umbreon. I'm going to go for a Fighting, a Metal, and a Darkness here, I think. I don't necessarily want my opponent to be able to easily take a knockout on a Pokemon and then suddenly we can't continue the game. So I'll put a Fighting and a Metal on Duraludon. That way if we get a Metal Energy, we can attack with Duraludon VMAX. And on the Umbreon, if we find a DTE, we can attack with the Umbreon VMAX, which I like. And getting the Ultra Ball off of these prizes means that either of those attackers are now an option for me. The only card that we're missing is the Double Turbo Energy to attack with the Umbreon. But to be honest, we don't need to. We pretty much got all that we need in the field of play right now. And it looks like our opponent is going to take a KO straight away here, not wanting to deal with the Duraludon VMAX. So we now have the option of attacking with Umbreon V or VMAX if we do find the Double Turbo. We've got the Ultra Ball. We need to find the Double Turbo. Flipping Tails on Cram is good. We don't necessarily mind whether Path comes down now or not. Path to the Peak is now no longer an issue for us. We could theoretically, we could potentially find ourselves in an awkward position here because our Umbreon VMAX will force us to use a Gust. Maybe we want to find a Choice Belt to knock out a Genesect V or something like that. Or we could be cheeky and we could Gust up the Meloetta. The Fusion Strike Energy would stop that Gust from going through. So that could potentially be a play. We'll have to wait and see what our Colress provides us. And I think, to be honest, it's probably safer to just promote the Arceus V-Star here. Worst case scenario, we can boss up the Deoxys and take a knockout. We've found a Choice Belt though, which means that pretty much anything that we want is available to us, and a Double Turbo Energy. So we can take knockouts with the Hawlucha as well. We could even boss around with the Hawlucha. We've got so many options here to take knockouts on these Genesects on the bench. To be honest, I'm going to take a knockout with the Umbreon. I just want to take a KO with the Umbreon. I think that that is the most fun that we could have, so I'm going to go for it. And I think the most fun way of taking a knockout with this Umbreon is going to be playing it down and then activating its effect to Dark Signal up the Meloetta on the bench. I'm going to click on that one there. I'm struggling to click. There we go. Let's bring it up, and then it doesn't work because it's such a bad ability. And then we're going to retreat into our Umbreon. We are going to attach a Double Turbo. We're going to need to attach the Choice Belt because otherwise we're going to miss the knockout. And then we're going to max Darkness, and that feels pretty good. Now we've potentially screwed ourselves over in the long run because we now can't take a knockout. I probably should have benched another Umbreon, but to be brutally honest, this is the way that I had the most fun playing the game, and the only way we get punished for this, the only way that we are punished for this play is if our opponent attaches a Fusion Strike Energy and then uses their ability from Elisa's Sparkle to get into range of the Umbreon. Actually, that's not true. They could very easily just draw into Power Tablet here. and potentially take the knockout. Although, to be fair, we've got one prize remaining. All we need is a DTE, and we win the game regardless. So, feeling pretty good. They're going to concede. It turns out we just win anyway. This deck is a lot of fun. I tell you what, if you want a ladder, then this is a great way to do it. I'm winning lots of games at the moment. Thanks, everyone, for coming past, as always. And I'll see you next time for more from the Sableyes. Goodbye. That was kind of an awkward one, to be honest.